by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Jamaica honors a corporate giant, new U.S. entry restrictions, and fresh pressure mounts over Venezuelan oil. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Wednesday, December 17, 2025. I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast locally, PSOJ posthumously inducts Don Webby into Hall of Fame at 31st Annual Banquet. On the regional front, Trump targets Antigua and Dominica with U.S. entry restrictions. And over on the global stage, Trump orders blockade of Venezuelan oil tankers. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMAX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMAX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
Caribbean flavors and fragrances. It started out as a small family-owned business, and now we're a part of a large group of companies. Being listed on the stock exchange allows us a certain prestige. It also speaks to accountability and transparency. We had some fears about getting our information in the public domain, but once we contacted the Jamaica Stock Exchange, who have the knowledge and the experience to guide us, we were comfortable with getting into the process. If you have any doubts about being listed, just give the Jamaica Stock Exchange a call. They'll be very happy to take you through the process and also provide you with information that you may need. Make that call now.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with a celebration of legacy and leadership as the PSOJ inducted the late Don Webby into its Hall of Fame. On Monday night, the private sector organization of Jamaica PSOJ posthumously inducted the Honorable Don Webby into its Hall of Fame at the 31st Annual PSOJ Hall of Fame banquet held at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in Kingston. The ceremony honored a man whose life and career made a lasting impact on Jamaica's corporate and economic landscape. A former Group Chief Executive Officer of Grace Kennedy Limited, Webby was celebrated for transforming the company into a globally recognized Jamaican brand. Under his leadership, Grace Kennedy expanded internationally, strengthened corporate governance, and cemented its role as one of the country's most influential conglomerates. Government officials, business leaders, policymakers, and stakeholders reflected on his ability to bridge private sector interests with national development priorities, noting that his influence extended beyond boardrooms, shaped leadership standards, and contributed to policy discussions across multiple sectors. In recognizing him posthumously, the PSOJ said Webby's induction honors not only his commercial achievements, but also his enduring contribution to nation building. The organization noted at the banquet that his legacy continues to inspire responsible leadership, innovation, and long-term value creation within Jamaica's private sector. The Honorable Don Webby now joins a distinguished group of business leaders whose work has helped define the direction of Jamaica's corporate community and its role in national development. We continue with news from the PSOJ Hall of Fame banquet. The posthumous induction of the Honorable Don Webby into the PSOJ Hall of Fame inspired heartfelt reflections from family, colleagues, and mentees, highlighting a life marked by leadership and lasting impact. CBX News spoke with several of Webby's closest colleagues and family members who shared memories of his remarkable legacy.
He has impacted the life of Jamaica in so many different ways. Certainly through Grace Kennedy, when you see the tremendous growth in that business and the way Grace Kennedy then impacts on the wider economy. But his work with the PSOJ and as through the PSOJ lobbying for the private sector, and even in government, bringing a private sector voice to what the Senate was considering or the cabinet was considering. So his impact, not all of it can be measured. Some of it we can measure through Grace Kennedy, but the truth is it was wider than that.
Dad just lived a really authentic life. He did a lot, you know. He was obviously the group CEO of Grace Kennedy. He was into his horses, he was into cricket. But the common thread throughout how he lived was he was authentic with everybody, with everything that he did. And that inspired me to live in such a way that you don't have to be pretentious, you don't have to bend to, you know, the circumstances. He always stuck to his values, his integrity, and just lived incredibly authentic.
He was a people-centric person. He believed in doing the right thing every time, not just when people were looking. Don was somebody that worked extremely hard. He put in the hours, he worked hard, he worked smart, and he did the things that everyone who's successful in business has to do.
And in other news, the Bank of Jamaica BOJ is reporting a significant increase in the amount of cash circulating in the economy, driven by seasonal spending patterns and heightened liquidity across households and businesses. According to the central bank, currency in circulation typically rises towards the end of the year as consumers increase spending for the holiday season and businesses hold larger cash balances to meet operational demands. This year's increase has been amplified by strong remittance inflows and post-storm recovery activity following Hurricane Melissa. The central bank estimates that by the end of December, the value of notes and coins issued will reach $321.6 billion, up $21 billion or 7% from November's stock and 12.4% higher than a year ago. BOJ officials say the surge reflects greater precautionary cash holdings, particularly among small businesses and informal operators, as well as higher consumer withdrawals from the banking system. While increased liquidity can support economic activity and a short-term recovery, the BOJ cautioned that sustained growth in cash circulation must be closely monitored. Excess liquidity, if not matched by increases in production and supply, could contribute to inflationary pressures. The central bank said it will continue to use its monetary policy tools to manage liquidity conditions while encouraging the public to maintain confidence in a digital and formal financial channels as Jamaica advances towards greater financial inclusion. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Wednesday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 109 stocks, of which 37 advanced, 46 declined, and 26 traded firm. Today's winners are MPC Caribbean Clean Energy, Medical Disposables and Supplies, 138 Student Living Jamaica, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company, while leading the losers are Cargo Handlers, KLE Group, Kingston Wharves, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The main index advanced by 640.29 points or 0.20% to close at 315,654.89 points. The junior market index declined by 10.85 points or 0.33% to close at 3,228.66 points.
The market education feature was brought to you by Caricris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
In today's market education feature, we're looking at customer success. Customer success refers to strategies and actions a company uses to ensure its customers achieve the best possible outcomes, both in using the company's products and in improving their overall business performance. However, it's no longer enough to expect the entire company to handle customer success to ensure customers truly excel. You need a person or a dedicated team focused solely on this effort. Customer success teams use a proactive, data-driven approach to help customers get the most value from a product. Depending on the team's structure and level of development, it may oversee the entire customer journey from trial engagement all the way to renewal. This broad approach supports several key business objectives, such as increasing renewal rates and overall revenue, strengthening customer loyalty and long-term retention, raising customer lifetime value and annual recurring revenue, and lowering churn rates.
The market education feature was brought to you by Caricris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced new entry restrictions on Antigua and Barbuda and Dominica starting December 16. The two nations are among several Caribbean countries facing restrictions due to risks tied to their citizenship by investment (CBI) programs. Effective January 1, 2026, nationals from both countries will face partial travel restrictions, while similar programs in Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia are exempted. Antigua's Prime Minister Gaston Brown criticized the move, noting recent laws require a 30-day residency for citizenship and called the U.S. characterization outdated. At the same time, the country's U.S. Ambassador, Sir Ronald Sanders, described the inclusion of the Twin Island nation on the list as perplexing, suggesting other motives could be involved.
I immediately contacted the State Department and the officers there with whom one would normally communicate over matters, bilateral matters, between the government of Antigua and Barbuda and the United States of America. They had no idea that this proclamation was going to be issued, nor did they know what it contained. They learned about it at the same time that I did. Now, what the proclamation says, and I think you've communicated this in part to your audience, is that Antigua and Barbuda has been, visas have been suspended for entry into the United States, and they are B1, B2, F visas, M visas, and J visas. And the reason that is given is that Antigua and Barbuda has historically had citizenship by investment programs without residency.
That was Antigua and Barbuda's ambassador for the United States, Sir Ronald Sanders. Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley has defended the Economic Diversification and Growth Fund bill, emphasizing it aims to protect jobs, attract investment, and safeguard public funds. The bill, authorizing $225 million from the Consolidated Fund, has sparked public concern over its economic impact. In a national address recently, Mottley acknowledged these worries, stressing the government's duty to explain the legislation. The fund ties eligibility to outcomes such as creating at least 100 jobs and generating foreign exchange, while companies remain subject to corporate taxes. Oversight will include the Accountant General, Auditor General, and a broad advisory committee.
The Economic Diversification and Growth Fund bill has been designed and will be implemented with a clear purpose: to protect and to grow jobs, to enhance foreign and domestic investment, and to grow our economy for all Barbadians, especially in a very uncertain global environment.
That was Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley. The Private Sector Commission of Guyana, PSC, is sharpening its input ahead of the upcoming national budget, with a clear push for policies to strengthen economic diversification and modernize the tax system. Speaking to the media recently, PSC Chairman Jerry Gouvaye Jr. noted that the Commission is in the final stages of preparing its annual budget submissions. Against that backdrop, he says a key priority this year is a further increase in the income tax threshold, arguing that adjustments must keep pace with inflation and sustained economic expansion to protect workers' purchasing power and support long-term growth.
You know, the government has been raising income tax thresholds, and that is usually part of our discussions. And yet again, we're asking for income tax threshold to continue to raise to match inflation, but also just, you know, the economy is growing. We want to make sure that the take home, the net salary for our employees also starts to go up. We're talking about non-taxable allowances that we can offer to our employees. We're starting to talk about ways of reducing corporation tax. So that way we can now start to reinvest more into our companies, more into our employees, more into the people.
That was Chairman of Guyana's Private Sector Commission, Jerry Gouvaye Jr. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 20 securities, of which 8 advanced, 3 declined, and 9 traded firm. Leading today's winners are Eric Solis Marketing, A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, Scotiabank Trinidad and Tobago, and National Enterprises, while leading the losers are Ansa Merchant Bank, NCB Financial Group, and Republic Financial Holdings. Trading activity resulted in the following movements of the TTSE indices. The All-TNT Index advanced by 7.93 points or 0.59% to close at 1,354.17. The Composite Index advanced by 4.07 points or 0.44% to close at 938.72. The cross-listed index declined by 0.01 points or 0.01% to close at 69.17. The SME index advanced by 0.19 points or 0.20% to close at 94.31. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Has so much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-9235-111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
Welcome back. In international news, U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers to Venezuela, intensifying pressure on President Nicolas Maduro. The move follows last week's seizure of a Venezuelan tanker and U.S. military buildup in the region. Trump claimed Venezuela was using oil revenues to fund drug trafficking and other crimes, and vowed to maintain the military presence until the country returned what he called stolen U.S. oil, land, and assets. Describing the operation as the largest armada ever assembled in South America, Trump warned the impact on Venezuela would be unprecedented, signaling a tougher U.S. strategy to isolate Maduro's government. Still in international news, Warner Brothers Discovery is urging shareholders to reject Paramount's $77.9 billion buyout offer and stick with a $72 billion deal from Netflix. The Warner board called Paramount's bid risky and inferior, relying heavily on borrowed money, while Netflix is backed by a company valued over $400 billion. Under the Netflix deal, Warner would first spin off cable assets, including CNN and Discovery. Paramount claims its smaller size could make regulatory approval easier, but Warner disputes that. Shareholders will ultimately decide the company's future, affecting major studios like Warner Brothers Pictures and HBO. Meanwhile, the European Union (EU) is loosening its 2035 ban on internal combustion engine cars, reducing the required emissions cut from 100% to 90%. Most new cars would still need to be electric, but some combustion engine vehicles would be allowed if automakers offset emissions with low-carbon steel, e-fuels, or biofuels. Officials say the change will not derail the bloc's goal of a climate-neutral economy by 2050, balancing carbon emissions with absorption or storage. Business activity in the United States slowed significantly in December, hitting its weakest level in 6 months, according to new data from S&P Global. The Composite Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, which tracks activity across manufacturing and services, fell to 53, down from 54.2 in November. While readings above 50 still indicate expansion, the drop points to a noticeable moderation in growth heading into 2026. Both manufacturing and services sectors contributed to the slowdown. New orders for goods declined for the first time in a year, while services activity, which makes up roughly 2/3 of U.S. output, expanded at a slower pace than in previous months. Analysts say this reflects softer domestic demand, rising costs, and ongoing uncertainty affecting business sentiment. S&P Global economists note that the slowdown comes after a year marked by market volatility, supply chain pressures, and inflation concerns. The data suggests that U.S. firms are approaching the new year cautiously, balancing continued expansion with tighter margins and cost pressures. Observers also say that the weaker growth numbers may influence Federal Reserve policy as markets assess whether a more accommodative approach could be needed to support the economy in early 2026. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Don't never ever ever wanna calm down. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, Don Webby honored posthumously into PSOJ Hall of Fame. Regionally, Antigua and Dominica face U.S. entry restrictions. And internationally, Trump orders blockade of Venezuelan oil tankers. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.